Hi guys, in this video I'll be doing my year in review video, which is later than I usually like to do it, which is about the end of July, a couple of weeks after we finished school. However, I did end up getting hurt and it took longer than I would have expected to recuperate, at least, to a better place. Actually got a little bit worse before it got better, but I am in physical therapy now. I did decide to go ahead and put this video out though, so that there is a follow-up to my curriculum video that I shared last year, so that just in case anyone found anything helpful in there, there was a video where I tried to, share what worked and what didn't work for us. All right. Okay, so I'll start with math and science. So my eldest, for science, she did the science with dive. She did chemistry and physics. She actually finished this pretty early. She did really well. No complaints. She did their earth science last year and she did really well. So I just went ahead and stuck with them. I do like the fact that I have now this, and for her math that I don't have to correct it and she gets her grade. She's able to see how she's progressing. Also in relationship to, she likes to see how she's doing in relationship to the other students that's taking the course as well, which they offer. You can see the average grade of the other students. So somehow she likes to see that. But anyway, my point is that this science worked out really well for her, and I like the fact that she could have done all the labs, by watching, or most of the labs by watching the videos. All right, so science worked out really well for her. For my younger two, we continued with the In God's Design science. This year, most of our time was focused on weather and water. And just as how they enjoyed earth, they enjoyed the weather and water, to the point where now they always looking up the weather, where it's raining in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, on the iPad. So they really did enjoy this. I like this program. It is very detailed, simple. This together with a lot of their social studies, I like to incorporate a lot of videos and stuff to kind of help make it a little bit more fun. We only did about 3 actual hands-on experiments, to be honest, but mostly I would read to them, they would listen. I did have, there's some papers in here because I did print out, in addition to the worksheets that come with it, sometimes I will print out like little puzzles, like word solve or crossword puzzles for them to do while I am reading. All right. So anyway, so that is science. So for this upcoming year, most likely we're going to continue with this series. I'm thinking about making a switch to something a little bit more hands-on for when my soon-to-be 7th grade gets in the 8th grade, but I'm really looking into that. Anyway, so that is science. For math, my eldest, she did dive, Showman math with dive as well, and she is doing algebra and half of chemistry. Now, it is meant to be a 3-semester course unless they're able to finish in two semesters, and then they have the chance of, getting an honors grade. But she is still working on it. Okay, so she's going to finish just shy of the 3-semester mark. It is very challenging for her, but she's doing really well, right? For most of the school year, I want to say somewhere up until April or May of this year, I did sit down with her and she would explain, like she have a book where she would work through her corrections. And so I can, even though I am not able necessarily to explain everything that she is doing, by her explaining, where she went wrong and working through her corrections, I was able to follow along and just kind of make sure that she is doing what it is she needs to do to make sure that she's actually understanding and not just listening to the videos and selecting making a good guess, right? At the beginning of the term, I was concerned if switching from Math UC to the Showman math would have been a good idea for her, and I did share in a video before, I think my mini update video, that for her it works because she's able to write notes while she's doing the math and she loves to write. It is working out for her. So I'm very happy with the switch for her. She's happy that she can get her grade and she could see how she's doing, right? And she don't have to wait for me. So it's working out well for both of us. Not sure, I was very certain last year that it's not something that I would switch to later on. For my other 2 girls, but at this point, I don't think I will be, switching. I think we will stick with Math UC, but I don't know, because I really like the idea of having a couple subjects where, as they get into high school, someone else can, grade and stuff. They're things for me. But anyway, we'll see. That being said, that's the reason why I'm uncertain is because we had quite a bit of a struggle in math when it comes to both my 4th and my 6th grader. I still do like the Math UC program for them. My 4th grader, she struggled, I think it was like 2 or 3 topic areas, sorry. But quite a few times thankfully, I have the teacher's book, and I actually had to sit down and go through the teacher's book and make sure that I understand the topic, thoroughly, because even with the video, she wasn't able to grasp it, but we were able to get over all of those hurdles. That being said, we are going to be continuing with Delta and Epsilon, and we probably might be a month and a half into the new school year before we move on to Epsilon and Zeta for them, respectively, because we have a topic and a half to finish in here, and I do like them to do the test book at the end. All right, so yeah, so that's where we are with math. It was a little bit still happy with Math UC, but it was a little bit of a struggle, some of the topic areas. And this is definitely a season where I have to take to heart what Mr. Demi used to, say. He says in all of his little videos that, you want to make sure that they understand the concept. Yes, you want them to move along, but if it is they don't understand, take your time and let them, make sure that they understand before they move on, because, it's just going to make it worse, when they get further along. Now, I do want to say something as I'm mentioning math. Now, with Math UC, I do like the mastery, setup of Math UC, but 1 year I did stop them from using a workbook. But one of the reasons why I still like to incorporate a workbook is because with the math that's included in the workbook, they're able to mix in a little bit of spiral math together with Math UC mastery math, if that makes sense, right? So it was about halfway through the school year, I did get them, let me get it. I have it here. The respective 4th and 6th grade comprehensive curriculum workbook. And it was worth it for me. It was not to do the entire of the workbook, but more so the math. I did have them do a few of the reading comprehension exercises, but more so to do some of the practice math questions in here. All right. So, and especially since they are, struggling, I want to make sure that they're still kind of practicing some of the things that they did before. Now, Math UC is set up where it does have practice built in, but I mean, you would know your children if they need more practice or not, right? So, all right, so that is math and science. Now, for Spanish, all of them did Duolingo, and I'm glad that I did do Duolingo because I was considering going with Rosetta Stone. I'm glad that I did Duolingo. I didn't pay for I think it's Max subscription. I just did the free program, and I wanted to make sure that they stuck with it, that they actually take to it, and they're doing very well. They're keeping up with their streak, and they're all doing well. All right. For my eldest, for the workbook, she did the Spanish now, and the audio portion of this, she did start off using it, but she didn't find it very helpful. Plus, and if you read reviews, people did mention that it was a little bit hard to follow along, and it was for her. I'm not saying that that's going to be the case for everybody, but it was for her. So we just stopped using that. So she just focused on the workbook. My goal for her, and her goal for herself, is to get a good exposure to the language. If it's something that she really loves, when she gets, God spare, into college or further on, that's something that she can take. But it's just for her to get a good exposure. That being said, our goal was to finish 70 to 80% of the book minimum, which she was able to do. And to figure that out, of course, we took the number of pages and then we divided it and we came up with approximately where, because it was pretty challenging for her because, you know, Spanish is relatively new for her, right? And this is, she was able, I don't know if you can see that, but she was able to finish this amount of the workbook. I think that the Duolingo did complement it. Now, I don't speak the language, so how am I able to tell if she was able to do how she's doing? Well, I tested her. Well, I used 2 free testing websites, and she got the same level, you know, result on both websites. So I did the language test on 2 programs, and she got pre-intermediate. And based on the Spanish, you know, Spanish levels in high school, she is just where she needs to be to do well in A2, because I guess pre-intermediate would be just before Spanish 3 or B1. So, you know, she can read the language, you know, okay, and she can listen to it well. Orally, not so sure. I'm not sure if I'm super concerned about it right now, because based on research, you know, over time, if it is something that they really want to get into, speaking the language is going to come later on. So I'm okay with where she's at. I have her results here as to back up the grade that I'm going to be giving her. And yeah, so that's where we are with Spanish. Now, this Spanish Now, we are not going to be using the Spanish Now 2. I'm going to be going with a different book for Spanish Level 2, because the Spanish Level 2 is now, Spanish Now 2 is hard to come by. And for what we are trying to get out of it, I'm just not willing to pay the price that it has on there. And she's not tied to it. All right. Plus the Spanish 2 that I'm looking into, quite a few people on Amazon commented that they use it with Duolingo and they find that it helps them to understand the content. So of course it's not, you know, going to line up, but they found it helpful. And since we use Duolingo, you know, that is going to work for us. So anyway, so that is Spanish. All right. So that's math, science, and Spanish. So I'll do the language blocks. All right. So for my eldest, she did Reading Detective, Fix It Grammar, Wordly Wise for her vocabulary, the Power in Your Hands, Writing Nonfiction in High School for writing, and for her literature, her literature was included in her history. And, you know, for extra reading, I shared that about a month or two, like not a month or two, but probably like the end of the first month in every school year, I start going to the library with them for them to get books, because we just happen to live, you know, pretty close to one, and we close off going to the library the end of July, which we did. So we take about a month or two off, and then for the rest of the year they get books and they keep it, you know, whether it's for 3-4 weeks at a time. All right. So that's indirectly was included in her literature. All right, so I like the series. The series works really well. She did well in this. So this Wordly Wise, actually all of them are going to be using this moving forward, and I'll talk more about this. So really like the Wordly Wise. It's simple. It's a little pricey, but you know, it works. All right, so Fix It Grammar. She did the level 5. She was actually finished with this pretty early, so she's going to be finishing up with this program next year. We like the Fix It Grammar as well. I made a little bit of a switch up for my younger two, and I shared that in another video, I think in a short video. But we'll be coming back to it I'll be coming back to it for them later, but I'll talk more about that when I get to them in a minute. And she just wanted to finish off the Reading Detective series, so that's why she did this. Now, this particular book is more so for if it is your child is struggling with reading comprehension in high school and you wanted something to kind of help them bridge the gap. That's what this book, I guess, is meant for. But she wanted to complete it, so, and we have it, so she did it. And for writing, she did the Writing Nonfiction. Now, this book I think she likes this series because she really, really likes the fiction writing by Sharon Watson. I had I had picked that up for her before she even got into high school. I think at the end of 7th grade or in 8th grade, because she was interested in fictional writing and she fell in love with it. So we decided upon this series. Now this is Christian based. This particular one, the nonfiction writing, and I understand why, because you're learning how to write letters, business letters, devotionals, all types of styles of writing. This one in particular is very writing intensive. And at a certain point, we had to decide if she was going to finish every single writing assignment, if it would be beneficial to her. So that's what we had to end up doing. Now, even though, of course, you are your child's, you're taking, their education by the arm, and you're kind of guiding them, so you get to decide what you think is going to be best for them or whatever. I do, however, like to kind of go with, if it is they recommend, okay, they should finish a certain amount or something like that. But in this book, they did not explicitly state that they think that the child should finish every single assignment, yes or no, right? So I just made the best decision first. Now, she did do the research paper. She did the research paper, and that was actually her favorite thing to write. She actually probably spent a little bit too much time on it because she really enjoyed writing the topic. And I'll share it, but if it is she doesn't want me to, I'll just cut this part off. But her research paper was a distorted mirror representation in children's media, and she really enjoyed writing about that. But anyway, so you will have to decide if you were interested in something like this, if they're going to do all of the writing assignments or not. So I have all of hers here. Now she's actually working on one that she just finished that I have to, when she's finished, she usually sit down, she reads it to me, and then we would put it in, Grammarly, and, if we have to kind of help her with, if she have little mistakes or errors, to kind of guide her along with that. So that's writing. And after that one that she's just finished, there's one more that I do want her to write. So she's going to be working on that before the new school term is finished. As I said, you will have to know what find a bridge between what is going to be useful and helpful to helping them with their writing. If it is you think that, they don't need to write as many essays, and of course you get to make that choice, right? But anyway, I'll stop there. So it was very writing intensive, and I think what made it even heavier is because there was a lot of writing within her history. So this year was very writing intensive, but instead of her high school years getting harder as she go, like heavier, more subject heavy, right? As she progressed up, I wanted to do it the opposite way, where it's heavier in 9th grade and hopefully progressively get a little bit lighter by the time she gets to 12th grade, unless she decides to do something quickly to start college quickly, so that she has more time to kind of figure out, what it is she wants to do later on. So anyway, so she's looking forward to doing the fictional writing by Sharon Watson, and thankfully that one is not as writing intensive. All right, so that is her grammar block or language block. Now my younger two, their block is a lot heavier. Now these I shared these before, but I like to share things that help them to improve, if they were struggling to where they're at, right? This creative writing skills, I've shared this before. They still use this. They really like this. All right. So this is just a supplement. And last summer, before the last summer and the beginning of last school year, they did this Writing Fabulous Sentences and Paragraphs, grades 4 to 6 by Evan Moore. They finished this whole thing. So I think that helped them. Why am I sharing those? Because before the school year started, I was really concerned for my two younger kids when it comes to grammar and the writing block, just the whole language arts block, sorry. but they have improved so much, and it has taken a little bit of a burden and worry off of my shoulder. Of course, they have a lot more, to grow, but we finally gotten to a place where, now they understand, how their idea is supposed to flow. Of course, they have to continue working on it, but that was the main struggle. Not just putting words on paper, but finding a way to help them to see how it is their idea is supposed to flow, make sense when placed on paper. All right. So anyway, all right. So for vocabulary, we started off the year with the McGraw-Hill, and I was really hoping that this would have worked because they did enjoy, the Scholastic little simple vocabulary that I did the year before. And because it had a lot of puzzles, I thought they would have enjoyed it. They were, I guess, they didn't want to say that they didn't like it, so they probably did it longer than I wished that they did. So unfortunately, this did not work for them. I actually had this one and I purchased this one thinking that they would have enjoyed it. They did not like it at all. And I really wish that I had just tried the Worldly Wise, the beginning of the school term. I don't know why it is. I doubted my own children and thought that it would have been a struggle for them. And I was wrong. They love the Worldly Wise. They both say that they finally feel as if they're learning words that's going to help them. So that was my misstep. So we are just about halfway through. And I shared in another video that, especially with my sixth grader, and especially within the language block, I have to, well, now for math, I have to take things a little bit slower, and I am perfectly okay with that. It does have some medical reasons in there, but I do have to take it slower, and that's the benefit of homeschooling. You get to move at that pace. We would all love, maybe we would all love, to think that all of our children are supposed to progress at a certain pace, and that's not always the case. So I try my best to move and shift things for they to grow at their pace, still encouraging them to work hard, but sometimes that means that we might have to move a little bit, slower. All right. So anyway, so we are going to be continuing with the Worldly Wise, and we're just going to continue with the books that we have here. And then once we're finished with this, they're going to move on to the next book. Hopefully we get to a place where they kind of catch up, so to speak. But for now, that's what we're going to be doing. Now, before I get to grammar, for reading detective, similar thing. We actually started off the year completing the beginning book, and then we started the A1. We have about just a few pages left in this. Now, not every subject, my aim is to try to finish the entire book. That is not the case, but if I think or I feel that they completing it is going to help them, then I do. All right. So for reading detective, we started off the year, we completed the beginning book. They're both doing the same thing, and then they are going to start the new term completing the A1 book before we move on to the B1 series, right? And for them, most likely, I don't think I may need to do the RX. Let me don't say that. We'll see when we get there. That's how I get myself in trouble. All right. Okay. For cursive, my sixth grader, she did can do cursive. My fourth grader, she did the cursive success. Pretty simple. For language arts, I switched from fixed grammar to first language lessons for them. And I shared in a video why it is I made that switch. And I was concerned, this is another area where I was really concerned, and I shared this in my mini update video, if it was going to be a good idea. It was an excellent idea. They are doing so much better in grammar, in writing in general, right? So for them, even though it was the level 3 book, I'm happy that I switched back to it. Now, in the beginning, it did feel a little babyish and a little bit of wasting of time, but we talked through it, and there was a lot of topics where we was able to just speed through because, it was redundant and they understood it. But there were areas where we got to, and I'm like, yes, I'm glad that we went back. So it was like a little mixture of feelings. Now, The level 4 book is not necessary to do it, but we will be moving to the level 4. Grammar, I kind of have their grammar mapped out. So, and I share that in that clip. We're going to do the level 3, then the level 4, then switch back to fixed grammar, because they really like the fixed grammar. They actually miss doing the fixed grammar, but they need, I like how the first language lessons is breaking it down so that when they get to fixed grammar, you know, they will be able to do really well in the remainder of that program. But anyway, I talked more about that in another video, so I'll try to link it above. All right. Anyway, so I'm really glad that we switched back to the first language lessons. So we'll be continuing with that before we move back to fixed grammar. And for writing, we did a combination of the classical quills and building writing skills, where they did the building writing skills on a Monday and Friday. And then we did the classical quills Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, right? There was a point where I was thinking about switching for the new term and finishing the building writing skills level 2 before moving on to the classical quills 1. But you know, the good old saying, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And this worked. Now, I would say that they really, really enjoyed the building writing skills. And this is after trying it a couple years ago and none of them took to it, my eldest included. And then I decided to give it a try again and they love this, right? And if I felt that this was, you know, sufficient enough for they to write really well, I would just do this series. But I feel like, you know, doing something a little bit more detailed, more intense is going to help them, right? Now, the classical quills, I would say it is a little bit on the dry side, and it does have a lot of like old English in there, right? And with some of the stories, and this happens in different subjects. It happens in social studies as well, where based on the story or the topic that's being discussed, we will have to have conversations that we're able to take what it is we are trying to take from the book, you know, and leave the other stuff. Let me say it like that. So anyway, so sometimes we have to have those conversations, whether it's with, you know, a lot of the writing. It was like that a little bit in writing rhetoric as well. And definitely when it comes to like history and stuff like that. But anyway, moving on. So I like this classical quills. So this book is definitely one where I really have to get in there and make sure that I understand the content and for us to get something out of it, right? But it is working. All right, it is working. I do like the fact that it has the entire program system in one book. Now, it doesn't have as many examples because it's not as detailed as the writing rhetoric, but I like it for them, right? I remember when we finished I think it's the second chapter, the description, that is chapter 2. My sixth grader specifically, she said that she liked that after doing description in classical writing, even though I would not say that they love this, but they are doing it, she said that she found that it helped her to be more, it helped her to figure out how to be more descriptive when she is creating her characters, right? So it is helping them. And that's my goal for them with writing. My goal for them with classical writing is not necessarily for them to totally adopt the classical style of writing, but for them to take a bit of tips from the classical style and incorporate it into their own, you know, personal writing. Okay, so anyway, so that's where we're at now with the outlining. This is another series that I shared in another video. There is this one for 3rd and 4th grade, and then there is another one for 5th to 8th grade. Ooh, right? And this one we completed. Now, I did wait until they were finished with all of the narrative writing in the building writing skills before we did the outlining. So when they were finished with doing the narrative writing, both personal and story narratives, and just before they started opinion writing, that's when we went through the outlining book, which didn't take us very long, and then we continued with the opinion writing. And I did this beginning outlining book on the days that I would have done the building writing skills, meaning Mondays and Fridays, before resuming back to this book. So hopefully that makes sense. And I'm probably going to take do the same thing once we get into the next grade, when we move on to the level 2. Once they're finished with narrative writing, and before they move on to, I think it's argumentative writing, I'm going to do the second outlining book with them. I found that doing the outlining at that time, it would have been most beneficial for them to, outline their opinions on the topic and have it structured, before doing an opinion piece as opposed to like a narrative piece. I could be wrong, but that was my thought process. All right. So anyway, so that is writing for them. So happy with that as well. All right. Now for social studies, start with my younger two. For civics, I had them read the Osborne series. I have 2 of them. All right, so I had them read from that. We watched videos. For economics, at the beginning of the term, they completed the financial literacy workbooks. This is just the grade 3 books. I think it has 6 books in that series. They just finished off that. We could have started another one, but I didn't have them do that. They just continued with the worksheets within this 180 days of social studies. All right, for geography, they did the 180 days of geography. That works just, simple, to the point, gets the job done. And for history, we used the American history, right? Now, before I go more into this, at the beginning of the term, I think I was trying to do too much. And what I was having them do with the social studies in particular is having them do a little bit of research based on the questions that was given for the especially within the history portion. I would have them do some, a little bit, not too much, a little bit of research within Bad right there, right next in the same room with me. But I think it's probably a bit too much, and it made where I stayed on this book a lot longer than I needed to, or I guess a better way to say that is that I could have spent more time where we were going more in depth into this, right? Now, that being said, I like this series not because I necessarily think that it is, the complete, history. Like I always tell my children, when they're doing history, they want to read from, different sources and kind of put things together. And if it's they kind of hearing the same thing in more than multiple sources, then it's probably, right, and not to take one account. That being said, though, I do like this as a guide. I've been using this Big Fat Notebook series for a very long time, and even with, the negatives, I still like it. It is a very good book, in my opinion, as a guide to whether it's to find topics to research so that we can sit down and watch videos on those topics, or we can look up, written pieces and find, activities or whatever to help them understand what is in here a little bit further. All right. Now, when it comes to our faith, if I need to have a conversation with them, I do that. Right. And that's all I would say on that topic. All right. So anyway, so that is social studies for my younger two. Now for my eldest, she did the not grass history. I'm struggling here just now. Hold on. Kind of hurt my arm. All right. So for my eldest, she did the not grass history, and I did share a video on this, and we did enjoy this. Right now, it is a very intensive program, and it does have a research paper in here as well. One of the things that I would say is I'm really happy that I followed when they suggest to start the research paper, because like her writing, this one is writing intensive. Now for this one, I'm glad that they kind of suggested how many essays that they should do. So that's what we did. She did do 2 posters, so 2 additional projects, and then 2 other projects that is not like a poster or nothing, but so 4 projects plus the research paper, and then 6 additional essays. All right. We were able to do all 3 sections for credit: the literature, the Bible, and the history. And we sat down, and like most times in the beginning of the term, we alternated just to kind of get us started. But most times she would read to me, and then for the questions and answers, right at the end of the book, she would read. I would read the questions, and she would answer. So when it came to the questions, she didn't do any writing for that, but she did do the quizzes. So she did do the quiz and exam book, but when it comes to answering the questions at the end of each lesson, we did that orally. All right. So really like that program. And as as a Christian, I did like the fact that she was learning, the biblical history and history. Now, if she was to say she had to study world history for an AP exam, I think that she would need additional stuff, outside of this. And I think they even, if I remember reading something in there, I think they did suggest that. But it is a good start. It is a very good history curriculum. We really enjoyed it. So that's that. And then the last things, I don't really have it in front of me, but it's spelling and reading for my younger 2. Well, it's last 3 things, yeah. Spelling and reading. So they are finished with their official reading curriculum, all about reading level 4. So we are done. And there's something about when you're finished with one stage in their homeschooling, it's like a little bit of a bittersweet. So, I'm finished with teaching, reading, which is it's crazy to be on this side, because when I first started homeschooling, that was one of my greatest fear, that I would never be able to teach my kids how to read. And now they are all at the stage where they're reading, and they have of course finished with their official reading program. But anyway, so that's that. And for spelling, we started the level 5. All right. So we finished the level 4. We started the level 5 early. So after that, we just have the level 6 and 7 before we're finished with that program. Right. I could have moved a little bit faster. We probably could have finished level 5. But it's only, I want to say, a month and a half before school finished that I decided for us to go ahead and start that. So that's that. And then for Bible, this year, what we did is I just wanted to take these last few years where, they might still, want to sit down and watch Bible movies and stuff, like the children Bible movies specifically. So that's what we did at the beginning of the term. And then after that, I did 2 of the Bible plans with them. Now, when it comes to their regular Bible, my eldest, of course, she has hers. My younger 2, more so focused on reading the Psalms and Proverbs at this stage. All the kids mature differently. So for them, I just have them read Proverbs and Psalms. And then my eldest, she has a devotional, and the other 2, I'm going to get them a devotional for the upcoming school year. And then, of course, outside of that, the other ways that we choose to practice our faith. So anyway, I think that is it. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've watched this far, if you have any questions, feel free to ask and I'll answer. Anyway, again, thank you for watching. If you started the new school year, all the best in the new or upcoming, homeschool year. Bye.